Well guys, here we are back. It is early spring here at Deep South Homestead. We've got so much stuff that's got to be done now with the garden. Our onions are starting to bulb now, and we've got to begin to pull dirt away from them. When you see this white starting to appear on them like this here, they're starting to look white. You want to go in and you want to get the dirt out from around the bottoms of them and kind of clean it out. It's going to take a little doing because it ain't rained here in like a week or so. And this ground gets really hard when it don't rain, so we're going to take a little tool and kind of scratch around them, get the dirt out. You don't want nothing but just the roots sitting in the ground. And then we're going to water them in good, get them going. We've got good leaves. There's one layer on the onion per leaf out here, so looks like we've got some good layers starting. We're going to try to get some fertilizer on them and get the onions taken care of. They're all looking really good right now. They're in the stage where they could use a little water. And we've got the Egyptian walking onions over there. We got to get some of the weeds cleaned out from around them. They're fixing to go up to head and start making little onions. So we're going to try to get them cleaned out around. Okay, we're looking at our elephant garlic. It is doing really good. We didn't even have to replant it. That's just left in the ground from last year, the corms and some of the bulbs we left. We harvested a lot of them. They're coming up really well and doing good. We're excited about that garlic, but that's not the only garlic we grow. We got like 4 other varieties over here behind us. Okay, we have the garlic here. This first garlic you see right here is the Japanese white. We have a certain section of the garden up to about there that's done with it, and then over here to this side right here, we have the silver white garlic. It's doing really good, and then we have 2 other varieties down on the end, down yonder, down here. The one the furthest out, I think, is probably doing the best of all of them. We use a lot of garlic here. So we're excited that the garlic's doing good. We've got to get in here with a lawnmower and start mowing around some of this stuff. The weeds is kind of getting around the edges. But guys, one of the things we're fixing to have to redo is this right here. This was our green beans. We planted them, and just like last year, it turned off cold. I've tested the soil. The soil's running about 50 to 55 degrees, which is too cold for those seeds to germinate good. We have some sporadic ones coming up here and there, but we're probably going to replow this whole garden, till it all under, and we're probably going to replant because it's just, we ran into the same problem last year. We planted 3 times last year, and we only got 1 row come up and harvested, I think it was 12 jars off of that 1 row of beans, and that's not adequate for us here. So we began to see the effects of the solar minimum last year in the Deep South. We're planting the same time we've always planted. We're having to kick our dates back now. We're having to go further up into the summer now before we can actually begin to plant our cool weather crops because they're not germinating. It's one of those things that, I mean, I'm looking at in the near future, this is only going to get worse. They're saying by 2021 to 2025, we're going to be experiencing severe food shortages globally. Only time will tell whether that's true or not. We know that in the Bible it speaks that a day's wages will be what it takes to buy a loaf of bread. Now, it doesn't say that there won't be any bread. It just says it'll be so scarce that it'll take all the money you can make in a day to buy enough food to feed one person in the family for a day. So we see the effects of that beginning to happen now. So we're trying to correct things. We're trying to figure it out while we have time. So the green beans right now, I think are going to have to be completely redone. And we're going to move over and look at the English peas, which is a staple crop of ours, and see what's going on there. Okay guys, we're back out with our English peas. Now we put a lot of time and effort into our English peas because that's one of the vegetables I can eat a lot of. And it's a staple crop for us, kind of like the green beans were in the previous part of the video. This year we tried something new. We wanted to put the row covers down to see if it would help us with weed control and moisture control and stuff like that. Well, I'm not sure what's happened this year. We've grown English peas every year. We've always been very successful. Right now, our English peas should have small peas on them, but it's not happening. We had a late freeze that we thought maybe was what damaged them, but it's not been freezing weather since then. It's been in the 40s and the high 30s, but that's English pea weather. That's not something that they're not common to being around. But what we're seeing is our peas are all, they're shriveling up. The leaves are all rolling up on them, and they're not growing. We don't know if it's the heat reflecting off of this black plastic onto it. We don't know. This is the first year we've had this happen, and it looks like we're going to have a failure with a lot of our English peas, because sporadically we'll have a plant that does pretty decent, but then right beside it, the plants next to it look horrible. Now, we did plant broadleaf mustard in here to try to do a nematode control, and we tilled it under. We waited a couple of weeks, like it was said to do, and we came back and replanted our English peas after that. And we don't know if it's the compound given off by the broadleaf mustard that's doing this. We don't know if it's the heat from the black plastic that's doing this. We don't know if it's some kind of geoengineering that done this. We don't know if it was the freeze 3 weeks ago that did this. We're not sure, but one thing we are sure of is that we're probably not going to have much of an English pea harvest this year. And more than likely here in the next week, if I don't see something pretty evident that they're going to recover, I'm probably going to take out most of what's bad and go ahead and plant some rattlesnake beans back in place of it, or something like that, because we already have the trellises, and we've got to supplement it with something, because the extreme heat is not far off here in the deep south. I know this morning it's like 44 degrees out here. When I was a kid, it wasn't uncommon. But now it is uncommon, because we don't usually have this cooler temperatures this long into the season now. Back in, like when I was a child, yeah, we did. We had that. And we are reverting back to that kind of weather. So I guess I'm going to have to start learning all over again how to plant with the effects of a solar minimum taking place. But we're going to move on and show you some other things there we got going on. We don't want to always just show you what happens good. We're going to show you the bad along with it, to show you what's actually happening here with us too in the deep south. Okay, we're over here at our apricot trees. We've got several of them here. And these, well, let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4 apricot trees. These trees were literally loaded with like thousands of apricots on them here a few weeks ago. And the freeze came in, and guys, I've yet to find one apricot left on the tree. I mean, I have looked these little limbs over, and we've lost all the apricots this year. So there again, there's another thing that's happened because of a late freeze happening to the fruit trees. Okay, now this is one of our 2-year-old peach trees. A few of the peaches made it. You know, you see a couple here, one there, one there. They made it. But you get down here to some of these others, like this right here, and you touch it, look, it just falls off. The peaches, they just fall off. The freeze got them. Now there's a good one underneath it there. That one's still hanging on, but we lost a lot of our peaches, and it thinned them down a pretty good bit. So we're gonna move over to the blueberries next and see what they look like. Okay, on our blueberry trees here, we have, you can see where the freeze, look at this right here. I'll kind of see if I can get it off and show you. These here, the freeze literally destroyed them. You know, the berries just dried up. They all died. They're no good. But there's places on the tree, like up here, these turned out really nice. They're doing good. And then some of them are actually, like down here, we're beginning to get them to rebloom. So we've got some new blooms coming on. It's going to be I'm guessing it's going to be a pretty long harvest this year because we lost a lot of blueberries. We have blueberries on the trees, and we have new blooms coming back on the trees. So the harvest this year is going to be a long, drawn out harvest, I believe. And hey, that may not be a bad thing in the long run. All right, we're here at our mulberry tree. We lost 100% of the crop of mulberries. Every leaf on it died. Every mulberry on it had hundreds of thousands of them hanging on it. Every one of them is falling off. You can see here they just shriveled up, died. But we're getting new leaves. If you look right there, I don't know if we can see it or not, but we have new baby mulberries coming on. So it's possible that we could have another mulberry crop. So we're praying that we'll get it and it'll work out fine for us here at Deep South. Okay, here we have our red crimson clover. We have it planted in between our carrot beds and our blackberries, and it's all up in our sugar cane down there. It's everywhere. And I know it looks a little ragged, but we plant this stuff in our yard and we let it grow around our apple trees, our fig trees, our berries, all this stuff up next to our gardens and stuff like this because it is a nitrogen fixing plant. And we do like for it to put nitrogen back into the soil. The only drawback to it is it just looks ragged for a while. But it has a lot of medicinal values to it. And once we let it go to seed and we cut it off, it basically reseeds itself and will come back year after year. We don't have to worry about it. And it is one of the crops that we are using as a natural permaculture type nitrogen fixing crop here at Deep South Homestead. Okay, this here is our pomegranate tree here. The freeze, it was beautiful and green and leafed out, fixing to bloom, and the freeze killed every leaf on it. You see it just literally, it destroyed it. But we do have some new leaves coming out on it. Here in the middle you can see a few right here popping out, and on the other side there's a few popping out over there. So we're hoping that the pomegranate tree will come back out this year and bloom and still maybe bear us a pomegranate this year. Okay, this is our apple tree here. I had to cut over half of this tree back this year because of woodpecker damage and insect damage and stuff like that. So we're probably not going to get very many apples this year, but it is blooming good. And hopefully the ones that are left, the new ones coming out, I can retrain them and that they will actually continue to produce apples for us, because it's something that we really like here at our homestead is fresh apples. And this is one of the only varieties we found that produces apples here, and it is the Anna apple. Okay, this here is one of our flowering crab apples that we have here. Now because it's a flowering crab apple, it makes a very tiny little crab apple. It's a good pollinator for our other apple trees, and the wildlife literally love it. I mean, they stay in here all summer long getting these little crab apples off of here. And plus, if you had to, I mean, they are edible. They're very tart. They could be made into jellies or jams or something like that if we needed it. But right now, it's more of a pollinator for other apple trees and just a beautiful tree in the homestead. Okay, this is the top of one of our young pecan trees. It's starting to bud out. We're hoping in the next few weeks it'll bloom out really good, and maybe possibly this year we'll get a few pecans off of it. But what we've learned with it is we're planting the red crimson clover around the bottom of it as a nitrogen fixer for this tree. That way it's completely getting nitrogen from the clover to fertilize the pecan tree with. And we're trying to use this permaculture technique here to save using any type of synthetic or chemical fertilizers on our plants. We're actively working to get our homestead where it is self-sufficient with its own fertilization processes. Okay, this is our fig tree here. It's leafing out really good. Doesn't have any live figs on it yet. The freeze kind of knocked it back a little bit because it was popping out, and it's just now recovering. So we're looking forward to a fantastic fig harvest this year if nothing actually happens. Okay, this is one of our pear trees. Now we probably lost over half of our pear crop. You can see here where the freeze, it damaged our pear blooms. We may or may not, most of them may or may not make a little pear because it killed the bloom on it. But there's some of them, like right here, these did actually make. So we do have a few small pears that we'll be able to put up this year. It's just that looking over the tree, I don't see near what I normally would see in the tree this time of the year. Normally the tree is just loaded, but it doesn't look like we're going to have a very heavy pear harvest this year on this particular tree. Now the tree beside it, this is a moonglow pear. I don't see any pears on it. It was bloomed out, and I think the freeze killed literally every pear on this tree. So we have one other one over here that's a very soft pear. It's a big tree. And to be honest with you, it's not looking good for this one either. There could be some up in the higher parts that hadn't filled out yet that I can see, but I'm just not really seeing any pears on this tree either. So we may have a whole year this year that we don't have any pears. And I know that when we canned pears last year, everybody says, my word, what are y'all gonna do with that many jars of pears? Well, it's for a season like this when you have a failure, you have something to fall back on if you have extra. Okay, our muscadines here are beginning to leaf out. They're getting ready to come on. Now we have mint planted underneath the muscadine because we have problems with mice coming up in the summertime eating our muscadines when they get ripe. I was criticized very hard for pruning my muscadines the time of the year that I did, and yet I see where it absolutely hurt nothing. I've done it for the last 30 years that way, and my vines have done fine ever since. It seems to work for me here, and if you live further north you might want to do something different than what I did, but so far this particular muscadine is coming out and doing well. Okay, these are our bronze scuppernongs. We trim them at exactly the same time we trim the other ones up there, the purple ones. These are beginning to leaf out just fine. It looks like we're going to have a okay deal with them all the way down the whole vine yonder. It's about 100 feet long. So we're looking forward to getting a good scuppernong harvest this year off of these also. Okay, this is one of our mayhaw trees here. They were totally white with blooms. We lost some of them, but we're still encouraged because there's a few of them still on here. If I can get it pulled back where you can actually see them in there. They're the same color as the leaves over here. You can see them right there, and down in here, there's a few of them. But with the mayhaws, we've noticed we have an insect problem. The aphids. Okay, you can see these here, right in here. This is all aphids. They are literally destroying the ends of the tiny succulent growth on these mayhaw trees. I don't know if I can get it around where it's even a little more visible, but you can see it is literally covered. If I take my finger and slide it up like this, I want to see if I can get them off. See this right here? Look on my fingers. That's all aphids. They are literally coating the ends of all the limbs. Okay, this is our plum tree, and you can see up in here it was completely bloomed out. A lot of the blooms are just falling off the little plums. This tree probably had thousands and thousands of blooms on it. Down in here, you can really see them down in here. The freeze killed them, every one back. We're not sure, but we've also noticed, if you look right here, you can see some of the new blooms starting to come on the tree. It may rebloom. So we see one here. We're starting to see some here. They're starting to rebloom. So it may rebloom after that hard freeze we had. So we're just going to wait and see. All right, guys, this is our Louisiana orange. This thing has blooms all over it. And guys, the smell of these things are so intoxicating. It's unreal, the sweet smell that this orange tree is giving off. So we're hoping that we have no more freezes and that this tree will literally, this year looks like going to be loaded with oranges, because I'm already seeing like 100 just right here looking at it. And that, where one crop fails, another one succeeds. That's why you need a variety of different fruit trees on your property. This is our white peach here, one that I came up with the variety on myself. I've grown it and bred it. We've not really had but 1 or 2 good crops on it since we've done it. The weather has not been well to it, but this year it seems like, I know the freeze knocked it back and we lost a lot of the little peaches on it, but there's still a lot of small peaches here, and there's some other ones around up here that's still there. And it's also trying to rebloom, so we may have a double crop on it this year, and if we do, then that'll be a blessing, and maybe we'll get a few peaches off of it this year. Okay, we're over here in our potato patch. Now, I don't even remember how many rows we got. We got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rows of our red Lesotho Irish potatoes. Just a month ago, these were cut off. The freeze killed them all. And here we are today. We have beautiful plants. They have recovered. The old people's advice was accurate. Cut them off within 24 hours, and I don't think we lost any. I mean, it looks like every one came up, and I'm excited about that. Now it's ready to be plowed. We haven't got to that point yet. We're trying to let them get just a little bit more size to them, so we be careful not to cover something up when we're plowing. But the Irish potatoes look like they're done well. We don't like we've lost anything on this, and we're very thankful to the good Lord above for having helped us to preserve them. And these cool mornings has actually been really good on them. It helps to control the potato bug and all the other problems that might attack them. We're looking forward to a good harvest out of this. Now this is a 50-pound bag. These rows are about 80 feet long, and there's 8 of them. It took a 50-pound bag cut up to actually plant this. We're looking for around 450 pounds of Irish potatoes out of this. That will be enough to get us through a year with canning, and have a little bit left in case there's a problem next year. So we're kind of looking forward to that. And you'll probably see a video coming up of me plowing these. We'll probably show you that in a later video.